Maya didn't know that the man watching her from across the restaurant was the most powerful alpha in the Northern Territory. She didn't know that he had been searching for his mate for over a century, and she certainly didn't know that Derek's cruel abandonment was about to become the best thing that had ever happened to her. "You know what, Maya?" Derek's voice cut through her nervous laughter like a blade. "This was a mistake." She had been reaching for her water glass, trying to steady her trembling hands, when his words landed like a physical blow. The expensive restaurant suddenly felt too warm, the soft jazz music too loud, the elegant lighting too bright. Everything about this evening had felt like a dream. Her first date in 8 months, Derek from accounting finally asking her out after weeks of lingering looks across the office. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not understanding. Derek was already pulling his phone from his pocket, his face twisted with something that looked almost like disgust. "Look at you. You're nervous. You spilled wine on your dress, and honestly, I thought you'd be more, I don't know, more. The word echoed in her chest, settling somewhere behind her ribs like a stone. More beautiful, more confident, more worthy of his time. "Derek, No, don't." He held up a hand, thumb already swiping across his phone screen. "My friend just texted. There's this party, and honestly, Maya, you wouldn't fit in. You're sweet, but you're—" He shrugged, the gesture more cruel than any words could have been. "You're just not what I'm looking for." Maya's breath caught in her throat. Around them, the restaurant continued its elegant dance, servers gliding between tables, couples leaning close over flickering candles, the soft murmur of conversation and clinking glasses. But her world had narrowed to Derek's cold blue eyes and the way he was already standing, reaching for his jacket. "The bill," she started, panic rising in her voice. "Yeah, about that." Derek pulled out his wallet, tossed 2 20s on the table. "That should cover my part. Good luck with the rest." And then he was gone, weaving through the tables without looking back, leaving Maya sitting alone in the middle of Rossini's, the most expensive restaurant in the city, the kind of place where the wine list started at $50 a bottle and the appetizers cost more than she usually spent on groceries in a week. The stone in her chest grew heavier. She stared down at the table, at Derek's barely touched salmon and her own untouched pasta, at the wine she had spilled on her black dress, the only nice dress she owned, bought on clearance 3 months ago for her sister's wedding. Her hands shook as she calculated numbers in her head. The wine alone was $60. Her entree was $38. His salmon had been $45. $143. She had $56 in her checking account. "Excuse me, miss." Maya's head snapped up, expecting to see their server with the check that would destroy her. Instead, she found herself looking into eyes the colour of liquid gold, warm and impossibly deep, set in a face that belonged in museums. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it. He was tall, taller than Derek, broader, with the kind of presence that seemed to shift the very air around him. And he was sliding into Derek's abandoned chair like he belonged there. "I couldn't help but notice," he said, his voice low and rough with an accent she couldn't place, "that your dinner companion seems to have forgotten his manners." Maya blinked, her mind struggling to process what was happening. "I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake." "The only mistake," he said, signalling to their server with a subtle gesture that had the man appearing at their table within seconds, "was that fool not recognizing what was sitting right in front of him." His golden eyes held hers, steady and unblinking. His loss. Something warm unfurled in Maya's chest at those words, something that had been cold and tight ever since Derek walked away. The stranger's presence was overwhelming in a way that should have frightened her, but instead made her feel safer than she had all evening. "Marco," the stranger said to their server, not breaking eye contact with Maya, "please bring us the check for everything, and perhaps a bottle of the Barolo, the 2018. "Right away, Mr. Blackwood," Marco replied, his tone respectful in a way that spoke of familiarity and something that looked almost like reverence. Mr. Blackwood. Maya filed the name away, her mind spinning. He knew the servers. He ordered wine like money was no object, and he was looking at her like she was the most fascinating person in the room instead of the woman who had just been abandoned in public. "You don't have to," she started. "I don't have to do anything," he agreed, leaning back in his chair with a slight smile that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. "I want to. There's a difference." Maya stared at him, this impossible man who had appeared out of nowhere, like something from a fairy tale. "Why?" "Because," he said simply, "some things are worth protecting, and anyone who would walk away from you is a fool who doesn't deserve a second thought." The warmth in her chest spread, reaching places that had been frozen since Derek's cruel words. She didn't understand what was happening, didn't understand why this stranger was being kind to her, but for the first time all evening, Maya felt like she could breathe. The wine arrived like liquid silk, deep red and impossibly expensive. Maya watched Kieran, Mr. Blackwood, taste it with the practiced ease of someone who had never worried about money, never counted dollars in his head while staring at a menu. When he nodded his approval, Marco poured 2 glasses with the kind of reverence reserved for sacred rituals. "I can't let you pay for this," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The wine alone probably costs more than I make in a week." Something flickered across Kieran's face, surprise maybe, or something softer. "What do you do?" he asked, and there was no judgment in his tone, only genuine curiosity. "I'm an accountant, well, junior accountant, at Morrison and Associates downtown." She took a sip of the wine and nearly gasped. It tasted like velvet and dark cherries and things she couldn't name. "This is incredible." "You sound surprised." Maya laughed, a sound with no humour in it. Derek was right about one thing. This isn't my world. I'm more of a boxed wine and take-out pizza kind of person. "Derek," Kieran said, and the name came out like a curse, "is an idiot." He leaned forward, those impossible gold eyes holding hers. "Tell me about him. How long were you seeing him?" "We weren't seeing each other. This was our first date. Only date, I guess." Maya twisted the stem of her wineglass between her fingers. "He asked me out 3 weeks ago, and I thought maybe someone finally saw something in me worth pursuing." The words came out before she could stop them, revealing more than she intended. Kieran's expression darkened, something dangerous flickering behind his eyes like distant lightning. "What happened before?" he asked quietly. "You mentioned a bad breakup earlier." Maya hesitated. There was something about this man that made her want to tell him everything, to lay her wounds bare in a way that should have terrified her. Instead, she found herself speaking. "His name was Marcus. We were together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months." She touched the bare ring finger on her left hand without thinking. "I thought we were building a life together, saving for a house, talking about kids. Then I came home early from work one day and found him in our bed with my sister." "Christ," Kieran breathed. "The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was what he said when I caught them." Maya's voice went flat, distant. "He said I should have seen it coming, that someone like him could never be satisfied with someone like me. Too plain, too boring, too ordinary." Kieran was very still, and Maya suddenly realized how quiet the restaurant had become around them. The soft conversations seemed muted, the clinking of silverware distant. Even the servers moved differently, more carefully, as if sensing something had shifted in the air. "Marcus," Kieran said, his voice carrying an edge that made Maya's breath catch, "was a fool, just like Derek, just like any man who has ever made you believe you were anything less than extraordinary." Heat flooded Maya's cheeks. "You don't know me." "I know enough." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. The contact sent warmth shooting up her arm, a sensation unlike anything she had ever felt. "I know you're brave enough to go on a first date after being hurt. I know you're kind enough to worry about me spending money on a stranger. And I know you have no idea how beautiful you are when you're not trying to disappear." Maya stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. Why are you being so nice to me?" Kieran's thumb traced across her knuckles, the touch gentle but somehow possessive. "Because some people are worth protecting, and you, Maya, are worth everything." She should pull her hand away, should ask how he knew her name when she hadn't told him, should question why this impossibly handsome, obviously wealthy man was interested in a junior accountant who couldn't afford dinner at a place like this. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch, craving more of that impossible warmth. "We should go," Kieran said after they finished their wine. "Let me walk you to your car." "I took the bus," Maya admitted, embarrassment colouring her voice. "Then let me drive you home?" They stood together, and Maya was struck again by how tall he was, how he seemed to command space without trying. As they moved through the restaurant, she noticed things she had missed before. The way other diners looked at him with recognition, and something that looked almost like deference. The way the maitre d' bowed slightly as they passed. The way the valet appeared before they even reached the door. "Mr. Blackwood," the young man said, keys already in hand. "Right away, sir." A sleek black car pulled up, not just expensive, but the kind of expensive that spoke of power and influence. The kind of car that belonged to senators and CEOs and people who shaped the world from boardrooms and private jets. Maya stopped walking. "Who are you?" Kieran paused, his hand on the passenger door handle. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face. Kieran Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Industries. The name hit her like a physical blow. She had heard of Blackwood Industries, everyone in the city had. It was one of the largest private corporations in the state, with holdings in everything, from real estate to technology to shipping. The kind of company that owned buildings instead of renting them, that shaped city skylines and influenced elections. "You're—" Maya's voice came out as a whisper. "Oh God, you're Kieran Blackwood, the Kieran Blackwood." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" He moved closer, and Maya caught his scent, something wild and clean, like pine forests and winter air. "Because I wanted you to know me, not my name, not my money or my company or what other people think I am." His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "I wanted you to see me the way you did in there, when you thought I was just someone who couldn't stand to watch you be hurt." Maya's breath caught. "I don't understand. You could have anyone. Why me?" "Because," Kieran said simply, his golden eyes holding hers with an intensity that made the world around them seem to fade. "I've been looking for you my entire life. I just didn't know it until tonight." The words hung between them, impossible and true, like everything else about this evening. Maya knew she should run, should put distance between herself and this man who was so far out of her league they might as well be different species. Instead, she found herself stepping closer. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be around someone like you." Kieran's smile was gentle, patient, and somehow ancient. "Then let me teach you. Let me show you how it feels to be treasured instead of abandoned." His thumb traced her lower lip, and Maya's entire body seemed to come alive. "I'll wait however long you need, however long it takes for you to trust me." Standing there in the gentle evening air, surrounded by the warm light spilling from the restaurant windows, Maya felt something she had forgotten existed. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying, beautiful hope. The days that followed were a whirlwind of coffee dates and long conversations that stretched into evening. Kieran was patient in a way that felt impossible, never pushing for more than Maya was ready to give. He took her to quiet cafes where they could talk for hours, to bookstores where he bought her novels she mentioned wanting to read, to parks where they walked under autumn trees, and she slowly began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this kindness. "You're glowing," Sarah said, cornering Maya in the break room at Morrison and Associates, "and it's terrifying me." Maya looked up from her coffee, startled. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've been walking around with this secret smile for 3 weeks, and yesterday I caught you humming. You never hum." Sarah crossed her arms, her expression hovering between concern and curiosity. "So spill. Who is he?" "His name is Kieran," Maya said, unable to keep the warmth from her voice. "We met at dinner." "The disaster date with Derek?" "It wasn't a disaster." "Well, it was, but then—" Maya trailed off, remembering the way Kieran had appeared like something out of a fairy tale, golden eyes and gentle words, and a presence that made her feel safe in a way she had forgotten was possible. "Then what?" Sarah pressed. "Then someone better showed up." Sarah's eyebrows shot up. "Better how? And don't you dare say he's nice. Every serial killer is nice at first." Maya laughed despite herself. "He's different, protective. He makes me feel like I matter." "Maya," Sarah's voice gentled, "after what Marcus did to you, you're vulnerable. Just promise me you'll be careful. Don't let some smooth talker take advantage of your good heart." But as the days passed, Kieran proved himself to be anything but a smooth talker taking advantage. He listened when she spoke about her work, asked thoughtful questions about her dreams, and never once made her feel small or ordinary. When she mentioned loving old movies, he arranged for them to watch Casablanca under the stars in his building's private garden. When she told him about her college creative writing classes, he encouraged her to start writing again. And slowly, carefully, he began to tell her about his world. "There are things about me," he said one evening as they cooked dinner together in his penthouse kitchen, "that are going to sound impossible." Maya looked up from the vegetables she was chopping, noting the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he was choosing his words. "Try me." Kieran was quiet for a long moment, something vulnerable and ancient flickering across his face. "My family isn't entirely human, Maya. We're shifters, wolves. And in our world there's something called a mate bond. It's rare, sacred. When you find the person your soul recognizes as its other half, you know. Instantly." Maya's knife stilled against the cutting board. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying that the moment I saw you sitting alone in that restaurant, everything in me recognized you. The golden thread that connects mates, I felt it pull taut for the first time in over a century." He turned to face her fully, his golden eyes intense and hopeful and terrified. "I'm saying you're my mate. Maya, my fated one." The words hung between them, impossible and somehow inevitable. Maya set down the knife, her hands trembling. That's not real. People don't have magical connections. Souls don't recognize each other." "Don't they?" Kieran stepped closer, and Maya felt it again. That warmth, that pull, the way her entire body seemed to come alive when he was near. "Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me there isn't something between us that you can't explain." Maya opened her mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Because she did feel it, had felt it from the moment he slid into Derek's empty chair. A connection that went deeper than attraction, stronger than chemistry, something that felt like coming home. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Crazy," Kieran agreed, reaching out to cup her face with gentle hands. "But true." Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed against the counter. She glanced at it and froze. Derek's name glared up at her from the screen. "Don't answer it," Kieran said, something dangerous flickering in his eyes, but Maya was already swiping to accept the call. "Hello?" "Maya, thank God." Derek's voice was slurred, angry. "I've been thinking about our date, about how I treated you." "Derek, you don't need to—" "No, let me finish. I was wrong to walk out like that. You're not that bad. I mean, you're nothing special, but you're not terrible either. So I was thinking, maybe we could try again. Lower expectations this time." The words hit like ice water. Maya felt Kieran go very still beside her, felt something shift in the air around them, something that raised the hair on her arms and made her breathing shallow. "I don't think that's a good idea," Maya managed. "Come on, don't be like that. You should be grateful I'm giving you another chance. It's not like you have other options." Derek's laugh was cruel, familiar. "Girls like you don't get to be picky." Derek, I'll pick you up Friday, somewhere cheaper this time, more your speed. The line went dead. Maya stood frozen, Derek's words echoing in her mind. Nothing special. You should be grateful. Girls like you. Maya, Kieran's voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the fury underneath, the barely leashed power. Look at me. She turned, and the expression on his face was unlike anything she had ever seen. His eyes had gone gold bright, and there was something wild and dangerous lurking just beneath the surface. He's wrong, Kieran said, each word precise and fierce. Every word that just came out of his mouth was a lie designed to make you feel small. You are not nothing special. You are not lucky to receive scraps of attention from men who don't deserve to breathe the same air as you. But what if he's right? The words escaped before Maya could stop them, revealing the fear that had been growing in her chest for weeks. What if this is all too good to be true? What if you realise I'm not worth all this trouble? Kieran moved faster than should have been possible, crossing the kitchen in 2 strides to pull her into his arms. The warmth of him surrounded her, that impossible heat that felt like safety and home and belonging all at once. Listen to me, he said, his voice low and urgent. I have lived for 137 years. I have travelled the world, built an empire, commanded armies. I have met queens and presidents and powers that could reshape nations with a word. And none of it, nothing, has ever mattered as much as you do. Maya's breath caught. Kieran, I would burn down everything I've built for one more day with you. I would give up my immortality, my strength, my pack if it meant keeping you safe. You are not too ordinary, Maya. You are extraordinary in ways that most people will never understand. And Derek calling you is about to become the biggest mistake of his miserable life. The promise in his voice sent heat flooding through Maya's body. This was what the mate bond felt like, she realised. This certainty, this sense of belonging that went bone deep, this feeling of being precious instead of tolerated. What are you going to do? She whispered. Kieran's smile was sharp, predatory, and somehow deeply satisfying. I'm going to make sure Derek understands that harassing my mate is not an option, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the evening showing you exactly how extraordinary you are. The golden thread in Maya's chest pulled tight, and for the first time in her life she didn't question whether she was worthy of love. She could feel it radiating from Kieran like heat from a fire, and it was impossible to doubt something so fierce, so absolute. I'm falling in love with you, she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. Kieran's expression gentled, and when he kissed her, Maya tasted forever on his lips. Maya should have known that Derek wouldn't let things go quietly. She should have seen it coming when he started showing up at Morrison and Associates more than his department required, lingering near her cubicle, with that smirk that made her skin crawl. And she definitely should have predicted that his wounded pride would turn vicious when she continued to ignore his calls. But she hadn't expected him to start spreading poison through the office like a slow-acting disease. Is it true you're sleeping with Kieran Blackwood? The question came from Janet in HR, delivered with the kind of false concern that barely masked hungry curiosity. Maya looked up from her computer, her blood going cold. I'm sorry. Derek mentioned that you've been seen around town with some very important people lately. He's worried about you, of course. Thinks you might be getting in over your head. Janet's smile was sharp, predatory. We just want to make sure you're not compromising yourself or the company's reputation. The words landed like physical blows. Maya felt her chest tighten, that familiar shame spiral beginning to pull her under. My personal life doesn't affect my work performance. Of course not, dear, but appearances matter in our business. Clients need to trust that we're professional. Janet's pause was deliberate, loaded with meaning. I'm sure you understand. Maya understood perfectly. She understood that Derek had painted her as some kind of gold-digging opportunist. She understood that her colleagues were now looking at her differently, whispering behind cupped hands about the junior accountant who was supposedly trading favours for expensive dinners. She understood that her carefully built reputation was crumbling around her. The attacks were subtle at first. Important emails that mysteriously never reached her inbox. Meeting invitations that were rescinded at the last minute. Work assignments that disappeared and reappeared on other people's desks. Her direct supervisor, Mr. Peterson, began treating her with cool distance, and Maya realized with growing horror that Derek's influence was spreading through the office like wildfire. "Maybe you should take some time off," Peterson suggested during their weekly check-in, his tone suggesting it wasn't really a suggestion. "Clear your head. Think about what's really important to you." Maya stared at him across his desk, understanding the subtext. Choose between your job and whatever this thing with Kieran is, because you can't have both. That night, she sat in her tiny apartment staring at her phone, Kieran's contact information glowing on the screen. She had been avoiding his calls for 3 days, unable to face the kindness in his voice when her entire professional world was imploding. How could she explain that loving him was destroying her? That being his mate, if she even believed in such things, was making her a target. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Hope you're enjoying the consequences of your choices. Should have said yes when you had the chance." Maya's hands shook as she read the message. Then another buzz. Another text. "Check your company email. Thought you might find the new rumour interesting." With growing dread, Maya opened her work email on her laptop. There, in her inbox, was a message that had been sent to the entire company mailing list. The subject line made her stomach drop. Ethics concern, employee conflicts of interest. The email was signed by a concerned colleague, but Maya knew exactly who had written it. It detailed her inappropriate relationship with a major client, suggested she was using personal connections to advance her career, and recommended a full investigation into her conduct. It was professionally worded, carefully crafted to avoid outright slander while destroying her reputation completely. Maya closed the laptop and put her head in her hands. Derek had won. He had made it impossible for her to stay at Morrison & Associates, impossible to continue building the life she had worked so hard for. And the worst part was that none of it was true. She had never used her relationship with Kieran for professional gain, had never even mentioned where she worked until their 3rd date. Her phone rang. Kieran's name appeared on the screen, and Maya's heart clenched with longing and terror in equal measure. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hello?" "Maya?" Relief flooded his voice. "Christ, I've been trying to reach you for days. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she lied, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, you're not. I can hear it in your voice. Something's wrong." A pause. "Where are you?" "Home. Kieran, Maya's voice cracked. "I can't do this anymore." Silence. Then, very quietly, "What do you mean?" "This. Us. Whatever this is supposed to be." The words felt like glass in her throat. "It's too much. Too complicated. I'm not cut out for your world." "Maya, whatever's happened, we can fix it. Just tell me." "You can't fix this." The words exploded out of her, all her fear and shame and exhaustion behind them. "You can't fix the fact that I'm nothing special, that I don't belong in your life, that everyone can see it but me. Derek was right. I was fooling myself thinking someone like you could really want someone like me." She could hear Kieran's breathing change, could practically feel his fury through the phone. "What did Derek do?" "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me. Maya, whatever he's done, whatever he's said, he told everyone at work that I'm sleeping with you for money, that I'm some kind of opportunist trading sexual favours for career advancement. My boss basically told me to resign. My colleagues look at me like I'm a prostitute." Maya was crying now, great gasping sobs that she couldn't control. "He's destroying my life, and the worst part is that it's working because maybe he's right. Maybe this is all too good to be true." "Where is he?" Kieran's voice had gone deadly quiet, carrying an edge that raised every instinct Maya had for self-preservation. "Kieran, don't—" "Where is he?" Before Maya could answer, there was a knock at her door. She froze, phone still pressed to her ear. "Maya!" Derek's voice came through the thin wood, slurred with alcohol and satisfaction. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." The knocking became pounding. "Open the door, Maya! Don't make me wait out here like some kind of beggar. You owe me a conversation after all the trouble you've caused." Maya's blood went ice cold. "Kieran," she whispered into the phone, "he's here." "Do not open that door." Kieran's voice was sharp with command. "Stay exactly where you are. I'm coming." "Maya!" Derek's voice was louder now, more aggressive. "I know you can hear me. Don't be stupid about this. We both know how this ends. You're going to lose your job anyway. Might as well salvage what you can." The pounding intensified, and Maya heard Derek try the handle. Her hands shook as she double-checked the deadbolt. "Please, just leave," she called out, hating how small her voice sounded. "Not until we talk. You think you're too good for me now? Think your rich boyfriend is going to save you?" Derek's laugh was ugly, mean. "He'll get bored, Maya. Men like that always do. And when he dumps you, you'll have nothing. No job, no reputation, no prospects. You'll come crawling back, and maybe then you'll appreciate what I was offering." Maya pressed her back against the door, phone clutched to her chest. She could hear Derek moving around outside, muttering to himself, trying the handle again. "You think you can ignore me?" His voice was getting angrier, more unstable. "You think you can embarrass me and just walk away? I made you look pathetic at that restaurant, and you should have stayed pathetic, should have been grateful when I called." Then, suddenly, the pounding stopped. Maya held her breath, straining to hear what was happening. "Who the hell are you?" Derek's voice had changed, gone from aggressive to uncertain. "I'm the man who's going to give you exactly 10 seconds to walk away from this door." The voice was low, dangerous, and unmistakably Kieran's, but there was something in it Maya had never heard before, something that made her primitive brain scream warnings about apex predators. "Look, man, I don't know what she told you, but 5 seconds." Maya rushed to the window, peering down at the street below. Kieran stood in the hallway light, and even from her angle she could see the barely controlled violence radiating from his frame. Derek was backing away, hands raised, suddenly looking very small and very scared. "This is between me and Maya." "Time's up." What happened next was too fast for Maya to follow. One moment Derek was standing, the next he was against the wall with Kieran's hand around his throat. Even through the closed door, Maya could hear Derek's panicked whimpering. "Listen very carefully," Kieran said, his voice carrying with supernatural clarity. "You are going to leave Maya alone. You are going to stop spreading lies about her. You are going to retract every false statement you've made, and you are going to disappear from her life completely. Are we clear?" "Yes," Derek gasped. "If I hear that you've so much as looked in her direction again, I will make your life very unpleasant. And trust me when I say that I have resources you cannot imagine and a very long memory." Kieran released him, and Derek crumpled to the floor. "Run!" Derek ran. Maya opened the door to find Kieran standing in the hallway, his golden eyes still blazing with protective fury. The moment he saw her face, tear-streaked and terrified and hopeful all at once, his expression gentled. "Are you hurt?" he asked, stepping closer but not touching, giving her space to breathe. "No, How did you get here so fast?" "I was already in the car when you called. I knew something was wrong." His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, as if he was fighting the urge to reach for her. "Maya, I need you to understand something. Derek will never bother you again. Not at work, not anywhere. I'm going to make sure of that." "How?" Kieran's smile was sharp, satisfied, and completely lacking in humour. "Let me worry about how. Just know that by tomorrow morning, Derek will be persona non grata at Morrison and Associates, and the rumours he spread, they're about to be thoroughly discredited by people with much more credibility than a vindictive middle manager." Maya stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time the power that lurked beneath Kieran's patient gentleness. This was what it meant to be protected by an alpha. This was what it felt like to have someone willing to burn down the world for her safety. Why? She whispered. Why would you do all that for me? Kieran stepped closer, his hands finally coming up to frame her face with infinite tenderness. Because you're mine, he said simply. Because the bond between us is stronger than any lie Derek could tell, any reputation he could damage, any fear you carry about being worthy of love. His thumbs brushed away her tears. And because tomorrow I want you to choose me, not because you're running from him, but because you're running toward me. Maya looked into those impossible golden eyes and felt the mate bond pull tight between them, strong and sure and absolutely certain. For the first time since Derek's first cruel text, she felt safe. I choose you, she whispered. I choose us. When Kieran kissed her, Maya tasted forever and felt her world finally, permanently shift into place. Kieran kept his word with the ruthless efficiency of a man who had spent over a century learning how to wield power. By 10 o'clock the next morning, Derek had been escorted from Morrison and Associates by security. By noon, a formal retraction had been issued regarding the malicious and unfounded allegations made against Maya Collins, signed by 3 senior partners who had never spoken to Maya before, but whose signatures carried enough weight to obliterate any lingering doubt about her character. By 5 o'clock, Maya had been offered a promotion to senior accountant with a salary increase that left her speechless. How did you do it? Maya asked, staring at the promotion letter in her hands as they sat in Kieran's penthouse that evening. Derek had been building his case for weeks. He had people convinced. Kieran's smile was sharp, satisfied. Derek forgot that Blackwood Industries has contracts with half the accounting firms in this city, including Morrison and Associates. When I mentioned to Mr. Morrison that one of his employees had been harassing my mate, he became very interested in resolving the situation quickly and permanently. You told him I was your mate? I told him you were under my protection. In the supernatural community, that's the same thing. Kieran moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. But there's something else I need to tell you, something important. Maya's heart stuttered. What? Tonight there's a gathering of the Northern Pack. The full moon is tomorrow, and it's customary for the Alpha to introduce his mate to the pack before the moon calls. His golden eyes searched hers. I want to present you to my people, Maya. I want them to know that you're their future Luna. Luna? Maya's voice came out as a whisper. The Alpha's mate, the feminine counterpart to pack leadership. Kieran's thumb traced her cheekbone. It's not just a title, Maya. It's a promise. A bond not just between us, but between you and every wolf who calls me Alpha. Maya's mind reeled. I don't know anything about being a Luna. I don't know anything about your world, about pack dynamics or supernatural politics or... You know the only thing that matters, Kieran interrupted gently. You know how to love, how to be loyal, how to stand strong when everything around you is falling apart. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair. The rest we'll figure out together. 2 hours later, Maya found herself standing in the ballroom of Kieran's building, a space she hadn't even known existed until tonight. The room was filled with people, but calling them people felt inadequate. There was something else there, something wild and powerful that seemed to shimmer just beneath their human facades. Men and women with eyes that caught the light strangely, with movements too fluid and predatory for ordinary humans. They can smell my fear, Maya whispered to Kieran as they stood at the edge of the gathering. They can smell everything, Kieran confirmed. But fear isn't what they're focused on. He turned her to face him, his hands steady on her shoulders. They're focused on the fact that their Alpha has chosen, that the bond we've been waiting for has finally appeared. Maya looked out over the crowd of supernatural beings and felt her breath catch. What if they don't accept me? Then they're not my pack, Kieran said simply. Before Maya could respond, a hush fell over the room. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward them, and Maya felt the weight of their collective attention like a physical force. Kieran stepped forward, his voice carrying easily through the sudden silence. My family, my pack. Tonight I stand before you not just as your alpha, but as a mated male." His hand found Maya's, fingers intertwining. "This is Maya Collins. She is my mate, my equal, my chosen one. She will be your Luna." A murmur went through the crowd, not hostile but curious, assessing. Maya felt like she was being examined under a microscope, every weakness catalogued, every strength measured. Then an older woman stepped forward, her silver hair gleaming and her eyes the same impossible gold as Kieran's. "You are not pack-born," she said to Maya, her voice carrying absolute authority. "No," Maya said, lifting her chin despite the way her heart hammered against her ribs. "I'm not." "You know nothing of our ways." "Nothing," Maya agreed. "You are human, fragile, temporary." Maya felt Kieran tense beside her, felt the dangerous shift in the room's energy. But something in the woman's eyes, something that looked almost like approval, made Maya step forward instead of back. "You're right," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "I am human. I am fragile compared to you. And yes, my life will be shorter than yours." She looked around the room, meeting as many golden eyes as she could. "But I am not temporary. What Kieran and I have, this bond you all seem to understand better than I do, that's forever. And if he believes I'm strong enough to stand beside him, to help him lead you, then maybe you should trust his judgment." The older woman's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. "And what would you do, little human, if someone threatened this pack? If someone threatened your mate?" Maya thought of Derek, of the fear and helplessness she had felt. Then she thought of the fury that had filled her when he had tried to hurt Kieran through her, the fierce protectiveness that had surprised her with its intensity. "I would burn down the world," Maya said simply. The room erupted, not in anger, but in something that sounded almost like celebration. Howls and cheers and stamping feet that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. The older woman smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. "Now that," she said, "sounds like a Luna." What followed was a blur of introductions and explanations, of pack members approaching to offer their respect and allegiance. Maya learned that the woman who had challenged her was Eleanor, Kieran's second in command and the pack's former Luna before her mate died. She learned that being accepted as Luna wasn't just about Kieran's choice, but about the pack's recognition of her worthiness to stand beside their alpha. "The moon calls tomorrow night," Elena explained as the formal presentations wound down. "Traditionally, new mates are bonded under the full moon when the pack magic is strongest." "Bonded how?" Maya asked. Elena's smile was knowing. "That, little Luna, is between you and your alpha." Later, as the pack began to disperse, Maya found herself standing with Kieran on the ballroom balcony, looking out over the city lights. The night air was cool against her skin, but Kieran's presence behind her was warm, solid, real. "No regrets?" he asked, his arms coming around her waist. Maya leaned back against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "About becoming your mate? About accepting a world I never knew existed? About standing in front of a room full of supernatural predators and claiming my place among them?" She tilted her head back to look at him. "No regrets? Even though your life will never be the same?" Maya thought about her old life. The small apartment, the job that barely paid her bills, the constant fear that she wasn't good enough, strong enough, worthy enough. She thought about Derek's cruelty and Marcus's betrayal and all the ways she had convinced herself she deserved less than love. "My life was never mine before," she said quietly. "I was just surviving. Now I'm living." Kieran's arms tightened around her. "Tomorrow night, under the full moon, I want to make it official. The bonding ceremony will tie us together in ways that go beyond human marriage. You'll be able to feel what I feel, know what I know. We'll be connected on a level that most people can't even imagine. And if I say yes, then you'll be mine forever, and I'll be yours." His voice was rough with emotion. No take-backs, Maya. No walking away when things get difficult. This is permanent in ways that human relationships aren't. Maya turned in his arms, looking up into those impossible golden eyes that had first captured her in a restaurant where she thought her world was ending. Now she knew it had actually been beginning. Yes, she said, the word coming out strong and sure and final. Yes to forever. Yes to the bond. Yes to being your Luna and your mate and whatever else comes with loving you. When Kieran kissed her this time, Maya tasted magic on his lips, wild and ancient and completely hers. 6 months later, Maya sat in the same booth at Rossini's where her world had once fallen apart, watching Kieran order wine with the easy confidence of a man who had never doubted he belonged anywhere. The irony wasn't lost on her, returning to the scene of Derek's abandonment to celebrate the most important night of her life. "The Barolo again?" she asked, smiling at the memory. "Always the Barolo," Kieran confirmed, his golden eyes warm with shared history. "It's our wine now." Maya looked around the restaurant, marvelling at how different everything felt. The same elegant lighting, the same soft jazz, the same pristine white tablecloths. But where she had once felt small and out of place, she now felt like she belonged. The confidence that came from being loved completely, from knowing her worth in someone else's eyes, had transformed not just how she saw herself, but how she moved through the world. "Maya Collins, Senior Financial Advisor to the Northern Pack," she said, testing the title on her tongue. "Still sounds surreal." "You've tripled their investment returns in 4 months," Kieran pointed out. "I'd say you've more than earned the title." It was true. What had started as Kieran wanting to give her meaningful work within the pack had become something extraordinary. Maya's careful, methodical approach to numbers had uncovered inefficiencies in the pack's business holdings that no one else had noticed. Her human perspective had provided insights that supernatural minds had overlooked. She wasn't just the alpha's mate anymore. She was a valued member of the community in her own right. "Elena says the younger pack members look up to me," Maya said, still amazed by the idea. "Me, the girl who used to hide behind her hair at work meetings." "You stopped hiding the day you told a room full of werewolves you'd burn down the world for me," Kieran reminded her. "That was the moment you became Luna, not the night I claimed you." Maya felt the familiar warmth of the mate bond pulse between them, that golden thread that now connected them on levels she was still discovering. She could feel Kieran's love for her like a constant presence in her chest, steady and unshakable and absolutely certain. The wine arrived, and with it Marco's knowing smile. "Celebrating something special tonight, Mr. Blackwood?" Kieran's hand slipped into his jacket pocket, and Maya's heart stopped. "You could say that." The ring was perfect, a simple solitaire that caught the restaurant's lighting and threw it back in golden sparkles. Not ostentatious, not designed to impress anyone but her. It was elegant and timeless, and exactly what she would have chosen if she'd been brave enough to dream that big. "Maya," Kieran said, his voice carrying the same gentle patience that had characterized their entire relationship. 6 months ago, you saved me from an eternity of searching for something I didn't even know I'd lost. You took a broken man who had given up on finding his other half and made him whole again." Maya's eyes filled with tears as Kieran slid from his chair to kneel beside their table, the entire restaurant falling silent around them. "I know we're already mated by pack law. I know the bond between us is stronger than any human ceremony could make it, but I want this too." He held up the ring, his golden eyes never leaving hers. "I want the human tradition, the legal recognition, the white dress and the ridiculous cake, and your sister actually having to watch you marry someone who thinks you're perfect." Maya laughed through her tears, remembering her sister's shocked silence when she'd introduced Kieran at their engagement party. The same sister who had once stolen her fiancé now treated Maya with a mixture of respect and barely concealed envy. "I want to marry you, Maya Collins," Kieran continued. "Will you let me spend the rest of our very long lives showing you exactly how extraordinary you are?" "Yes," Maya whispered, then louder. "Yes, of course, yes." The restaurant erupted in applause as Kieran slipped the ring onto her finger, and Maya marvelled at how different this moment was from Derek's cruel abandonment. She was surrounded by warmth and celebration instead of humiliation and silence. She was being claimed instead of discarded. She was being chosen by someone who saw all of her and wanted every piece. Later, as they walked through the city streets hand in hand, Maya found herself thinking about fate and timing and the strange paths that led people to their destinies. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Derek hadn't walked out that night?" she asked. Kieran was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think I would have found you eventually. The mate bond doesn't just disappear because of bad timing." He squeezed her hand. "But I'm glad it happened the way it did. I'm glad I got to be the one who showed you that not all men are Derek, that you deserve to be treasured, not tolerated." Maya leaned against his shoulder as they walked, feeling the solid warmth of him, the safety that had become as natural as breathing. "I used to think being abandoned was the worst thing that could happen to someone. And now I think being abandoned led me exactly where I needed to be." They stopped walking, and Kieran turned to face her under the soft glow of the streetlights. His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing across her cheekbones with infinite tenderness. "You were never abandoned, Maya. You were just waiting in the wrong place for the right person to find you." When he kissed her, Maya tasted forever and home and belonging, all wrapped up in the impossible magic of finding someone who loved her, not despite her ordinariness, but because of the extraordinary heart that beat beneath it. The golden thread between them pulsed with contentment, with peace, with the absolute certainty that came from knowing they had found their way to exactly where they belonged, together.